Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us this afternoon to the Bertha Centre's Collective Conversations. Today, we'll be talking about unleashing African impact through impact investing, African potential through impact investing. My name is Motshekwa More, and I'm part of the Secretariat of Impact Investing South Africa. Impact Investing South Africa is the national task force for impact investing, and we fall under the Global Steering Group. And I have my esteemed panelists here to just have a conversation with us today about what exactly that means. What does it mean to unlock Africa's potential through impact investing? And hopefully we tackle practical ways to do that. And most importantly, we get some insights. We look forward to also hearing your views as everyone who's watching and getting some of your insights as well, so we can have a collaborative conversation, but most importantly that it's solution orientated and we gain an understanding of what exactly that means for us. Okay. So we're going to start with a presentation by Amma Lartey. Amma, have you joined us? I'm just going to introduce Amma in the meantime, while she prepares for her presentation. Amma is the CEO of Impact Investing Ghana, the Ghanaian National Advisory Board for Impact Investing. She's also the board chair of Social Enterprise Ghana, the Association for Organizations in the Social Enterprise Sector in Ghana, and a board member of Reach for Change Ghana, a venture philanthropist enabling organizations in Ghana, Ethiopia, and Senegal to launch and grow. Amma is an accredited trainer for the SDG Impact Standards, a fellow of the African Leadership Initiative of West Africa, as well as a member of the Aspen Global Leadership Network. So she has quite the impressive bio in the impact investing space, and I think we're also excited to see what she has to say specifically about impact investing and how it results and culminates in the first Africa Impact Investing Summit, which is something we're going to be discussing today as well. Amma, are you ready to present? I think Amma might be having some technical issues. Oh, I think she's left us. Okay, that's fine. In the meantime, we're just going to move on then in that case. So I'm going to introduce the rest of the panelists, and then maybe we'll just get into the conversation. And once Amma rejoins us, then she'll be able to make her presentation. Okay. So as part of our panelists today, we have Atieno Otonglo joining us from the Global Steering Group. She's the Market Development Manager at the Global Steering Group, supporting the development and onboarding of new national advisory boards across the globe as part of the GSG strategy to grow the impact investing movement globally. She has over 15 years experience of investor relations, business development, and operations management experience, mainly across the global emerging markets. Thank you so much, Atieno, for joining us today. We also have Mandy Jayakodi. Mandy is an entrepreneur, consultant, and scholar with a wealth of experience in various sectors, including mining, agriculture, and the built environment. She's worked in the climate change and ESG sectors across the globe for clients and projects in the public and private sector in some sort of form over the duration of her career. She was also the knowledge management lead for the University of Cape Town's Bertha Centre of Social Innovation and Entrepreneur on the Green Outcomes Fund, which is an exciting first of its kind outcomes-based funding facility aimed at promoting the uptake of SMEs development in the green economy. So thank you so much, Mandy, for joining us. She's also part of Impact Investing South Africa, where she serves on the board. We also have Justina Mensah joining us from Ghana. She has a career that spanned over the past 8 years in retail banking and marketing. She's the program officer for deal room and investor engagements at Impact Investing Ghana. So she works with Amma Lartey. She's responsible for leading and supporting key projects, including the Deal Source Africa program, investor engagement, and the management and running of the Ghana Angel Investor Network. Thank you so much for joining us, Justina. We're so excited to have you here as well. Lastly, we've got Amma, the rose amongst the thorns today. Amma is an impact investing specialist under the policy and partnerships team at the UNDP. At UNDP, Amma's main responsibility is working on linking sustainability and impact with the private sector and also developing impact measurement and management frameworks, supporting various investors and enterprises. Amma also works on developing partnerships with impactful investors and promoting impact investing. His background is in stakeholder relation management, technical backstopping, and economic research and market studies. Thank you so much as well, Amma, for joining us. Awesome. Okay, we've got Amma here. Welcome, Amma. Thank you.
Thank you, Mochega. Hope you can hear me.
Yes, you can.
And really delighted to be here and to be selected by my peers across Africa to present to the world the Africa Impact Summit. It would be great. I think, Diana, you were asking, yes, I would love for you to support me with the presentation. So good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending on where in the world you're joining us. This year in July, all roads lead to Cape Town, South Africa, where the inaugural Africa Impact Summit will be held in Cape Town on the theme Unleashing African Potential Through Impact Investing. It's my pleasure to present to you this event and to tell you a little bit more about what you'll experience when you join us in July in South Africa. I'm excited to be there, and I know that many of you are also excited to join us, which is why you joined this, this launch event. So today I'll be telling you a little bit about the history of the event and why we're doing this and what makes it unique, what you'll gain if you come to South Africa with us, and why I'm so excited to be able to collaborate with my colleagues across Africa to bring you this event. So the first thing that's unique about the Africa Impact Summit, for those of you who are wondering, do we need another summit on impact investing? And I think that is got to do with the exciting group that we've brought together here, on the ground actors who are leading impact investing in countries across Africa, South, East, West, North, on the ground actors that are in touch with the people on the forefront of innovation in impact investing in these markets. Next slide. We have our host in South Africa, Impact Investing South Africa, together with the Bertha Centre, as well as in Nigeria, the Nigerian National Advisory Board for Impact Investing, the National Advisory Board for Impact Investing in Zambia, Impact Investing Ghana, in Ghana, where I'm joining from, and the Global Steering Group for Impact Investing. But also we have task forces from across Africa, colleagues from Egypt, Kenya, Burkina Faso, Senegal, Cote d'Ivoire, and this gives you a rich and vibrant conference that you will not experience anywhere else. It also means that the agenda is set in a way that highlights the needs and opportunities in Africa in a way that you will not experience at any other summit this year. And so we invite you to join us in South Africa for this conference. Next slide. The second reason to be part of this historic event is the theme and sessions that you will experience in South Africa. The theme is Unlocking Africa Potential Through Impact Investing. And when we put together this theme, we really were looking at unpacking all the things that are happening across the world and in Africa around the transition a just transition to net zero, gender lens investing and its potential for driving transformation across Africa, innovative financing, especially for small and medium enterprises. And if you come to South Africa, you will see innovative things being done with pension funds, being done with fund managers, and small ticket deals, and how we are pooling funds and trying to meet the needs of African entrepreneurs. You will see innovations in agricultural financing, infrastructure financing. You will meet people. And when we think about what we've put together, is three things that come to mind. The first is knowledge, insights and experiences you're not going to meet anywhere else in the globe. You will see at this conference. The second is network. I already talked about the hosts, but each of these hosts is bringing with us a contingent of amazing organizations who are working together to move capital at scale. And then the third thing is collaboration, practical opportunities to collaborate and to be part of conversations that lead to action. There are some unique features to this conference. There will be deal rooms run across both days of the conference where you'll get to meet African investors and funds that match your needs. It's a great opportunity to expand your network. And we also will be hosting the inaugural IntelliDex Africa Impact Awards. I'm sure that you're getting even more excited than I am to be in Cape Town in July this year. Next slide. So who should come to this conference? And it's for the impact investing ecosystem, suppliers of capital. If you're a fund manager, pension fund, mutual fund, venture capital fund, or any other innovative supplier of impact capital that is interested in learning more about what's happening across the continent, you should be at this conference. It's also for foundations and family offices who are doing impact investors. It is for international and national development finance institutions. And many of you are familiar with the international ones, but they are national development finance institutions funding innovation across Africa, and you'll meet them at this conference. It's for international development agencies that are investing in SME development, in access to finance programs, in innovative financing programs, or who want to learn more about blended finance and about ways to better connect and partner with other actors in the financial, in the private sector. It's for market builders. If you're an enterprise support organization, an incubator, accelerator, capital raise service provider, then you should be at this conference, as well as entrepreneurs and businesses. Especially if you're raising money, you can apply to be in the deal room. And I know that in the panel and in other sessions, you'll get more information about the deal rooms and how to sign up. And the deal rooms are free, but you miss the conference. So do sign up for both the deal rooms and the conference so you get the full experience of networking. It's for nonprofits who are interested in impact investing or doing impact investing, and for government and government agencies also. So I hope that this has made you a little more excited to join us in South Africa, but it's not a two-day package. It's a year-long package, and it's a package that it's a gift from us to Africa and the world that will keep giving every year. So on the journey to South Africa, for those who sign up now, you'll get to experience interesting pre-conference events. Some of them are surprises, so we'll announce them in the weeks to come. There will be knowledge sharing, articles, and other opportunities like today, and much, much more. And so it's also one of the things that struck me is how affordable this conference is when placed in the universe of conferences around the world. We've been very deliberate in trying to mobilize resources to make this affordable and accessible. And if you have no other reason to join us in South Africa, do join us to experience this and to see people that you won't see anywhere else. I'll hand over back to the team in South Africa, and thank you so much for listening, and hope that many of you will join us. The link will be shared in the chat to the event website, and more information will be shared also about how you can sign up for the deal rooms and how you can participate, both in person in South Africa and virtually.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for that incredible presentation, Amma. I definitely feel more excited, even though I've been part of the organizing from the beginning. Just hearing it in light and putting it out to the world, and all the behind the scenes work that we've been doing. Just, yeah, I feel even more excited, and I'm so excited to see everyone there. I see we have a question in the chat by Vera asking, why only NGOs? What about for-profit women-led SME businesses?
We would love to have all the for-profit women-led SME businesses there. It's for businesses of all kinds and all sizes, especially if you're fundraising or if you have experiences about your fundraising journey that you want to share with capital providers.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And one of the things you spoke about as well is collaboration. And just to emphasize that to everyone watching, it's been such a collaborative journey, not only from a Pan-African perspective, working with the task forces from Egypt. We've also got the National Advisory Boards from Ghana, Nigeria, and Zambia, but we've also established some incredible partnerships as well, such as the UNDP, partnerships with Intellidex, where Intellidex will be launching the first Africa Impact Investing Awards. That's going to be a Pan-African thing, and I believe nominations are still open for that, so that's absolutely incredible, as well as partnerships with AVPA. And I see Frank's here as well. So thank you, Frank, for joining us. But we've established some incredible partnerships along the way. And I think as we continue to grow, and this hopefully becomes an annual thing, we'll continue to collaborate with everyone in the market. Amma, I have a question for you then, just to get into our panel discussion. The first question I have for you is, where did the idea of the summit come from, and why is it such an important platform?
So the idea began last year at the GSG leadership meeting in Turin, Italy. The African NABs got together and began to think about how to collaborate more and support each other's work. We had been doing this informally over the years, but we wanted to do it in a formal structure. And one of the gaps that was identified was being able to have a joint voice to the global community that articulated the opportunity, the challenges of Africa in a way that actually drove action. We have the pleasure of being able to use the GSG's platform for this, but the idea of having an event solely dedicated to Africa would really build on that to be able to drive action.
No, thank you for sharing that. I think some people are a little bit fatigued of conferences and webinars and things like that. Some people consider them to be talk shops that don't really result in tangible change, unfortunately. So Justina, I have a question for you. How do you think the summit is a little bit different to another talk shop, and how do you think it can result in tangible change or difference?
Thank you so much for your question. Can you hear me, please?
Yes.
Great, thank you. So I think in Amma's presentation, she mentioned that there will be deal rooms. As part of this conference, one of our main goals is to connect businesses with investors and to also connect limited partners with innovative vehicles and funds that are fundraising in Africa. Now, we will be doing this through deal rooms and impact fund showcases. And the deal rooms and impact fund showcases are part of a larger program that is run by Impact Investing Ghana and Impact Investors Foundation, Nigeria. And we call that program Deal Source Africa, which is a comprehensive program where we connect businesses to investors. We connect these same businesses to transaction advisors who walk them through the investment processes. And we connect funds that are fundraising to limited partners. Now, one of the interesting things that we are looking at doing is that this time around, we are looking at bringing on board businesses across Africa and investors across Africa to be in the deal room. The deal rooms are curated platforms where businesses that have gone through pre-screening get to interact with investors in a one-on-one discussion. Now, as part of the deal rooms, a selected few of businesses will get the opportunity to go through some in-depth training or coaching with coaches or transaction advisors to prepare them for the deal room. Now, in addition to that, we're also going to connect funds that are fundraising, and we have some interesting vehicles in Ghana and in Nigeria and across the African NABs and task forces, such as the Chikaba in Ghana, the Wholesale Fund in Nigeria, and these funds are also get the opportunity to engage with limited partners. So the deal room is going to be in 2 sessions, the virtual session, where businesses and funds that cannot travel all the way to South Africa will be given the opportunity to engage with investors on the 5th, 6th, and 7th of July, and the in-person sessions where businesses that are in South Africa and those that are willing to travel and funds will get the real-time opportunity to engage with funds. Now, for our deal room so far, I'm happy to say that we've been able to close 3 deals so far, totaling over $200,000. And happily, I'm happy to say that one of these deals were closed by a business that was funded by a female. So it's not going to be just a regular talk shop. You're going to close deals, and we hope to be able to move funds after this particular summit. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Justina. That sounds absolutely incredible. I just have a question. I think there's definitely some interest in the deal room and how people can sign up to that as people seeking funding or perhaps investors. How can people sign up to that deal room?
Thank you very much. We will share forms with Dinah, will be shared across the investor network communities. So businesses will be given a link where they can go to the Deal Source Africa platform and will find a link straightly for the Africa Impact Summit, and they'll go there and they get to register. So please, we'll share the links with them later after the program. Thank you.
Thank you, Justina. Omar, because the summit is quite a collaborative event and you are based in Northern Africa, impact investing is considered to be slightly different across the continent. So my question for you is, what are some of the differences in how impact investing is considered across different parts of Africa? And also, how can the summit be used to address some of these differences?
Thank you, Muchagwa. The thing is, I'm not seeing a lot of differences. Maybe we're seeing that, so the challenges that are happening worldwide are affecting everyone, every region, every country, everyone is being affected in different senses. Solutions that are being bridged out by the private sector and by different economies are to resolve issues in the country. So maybe we're targeting different issues that are coming out, but you see innovation, you see technology, you see growth coming out from different areas in different countries. When we talk about impact, so you were talking about GSG, you talked about UNDP, and those are 2 entities that have been doing a lot of work in Africa. Maybe Atieno can also shed a little bit more light, but GSG has been growing in task forces and in NAVs across Africa and trying to bridge impact investing. And UNDP, we've been working on SDG impact standards. We've been working on SDG investor maps with different governments and different regulations and in different countries. So you're also seeing a rise in SDG bonds and thematic bonds that are rising also in Africa. So there's a lot of movement towards impact, towards enhancing economies, and towards diversifying capital markets. So I think this is all bridging towards a very successful summit that I would see in July.
Thank you, Omar. It's actually really interesting to hear that we have global issues and not necessarily just, country-specific issues. I think it just calls for more need to collaborate, actually. But you did touch on something, and I'd like Atieno to expand on that, that impact investing is growing as an investment strategy globally. So Atieno, what are some lessons we're seeing from that growth occurring globally, particularly from your view as the GSG, that we can apply to the African context from the global markets?
Thank you, Moshegwa. It's great to be on the call and to see some familiar faces and new faces as well. We are really excited about this conference and hope to see all of you there together with your networks. So in terms of what we are seeing, first of all, let me just start by saying that in terms of the global emerging markets, Africa definitely presents and represents the biggest opportunity gap in terms of additional capital to achieve, especially the SDG goals, because the funding gaps are more pronounced and the needs are really immense. And also historically, the institutional investors have largely been on the periphery when it comes to investing in the region, in terms of the local listed markets and also in terms of investing in private or rather alternative asset classes. And these global institutions, institutional investors hold and control about 154 trillion globally. That's at the end of 2020. And therefore, there's so much potential for them to be transformative in Africa. So some of the trends that we are seeing in terms of what's happening globally, first of all, there's the current momentum to move capital towards impact, which needs to really be accelerated. So capital currently on the sidelines need to be stirred into action, and there's need for an urgent effort by all financial market actors. So the investors from right across the capital spectrum, mainstream, ESG, impact, asset managers, financial intermediaries, and regulators and governments. We require all of them to move fast and to move vast funding amounts that are needed on the continent. There's also a need to be able to tie the social aspects to go along with the environmental, because capital that ignores environmental consequences and social inequity and dislocation will definitely increase to vulnerability in terms of performance as well as reputational risks. So the two need to go hand in hand. We also need to make sure that the traditional investors also follow and come along. So the challenge is to move much more of the vast traditional capital resources into these pools of capital, and where and how these investors will apply and invest those resources will eventually determine whether we achieve the SDGs that we're really trying to achieve on our continent. Further, another thing, we also need to make sure that the MDBs and the DFIs play a leading role, because these institutions need to continue to go where the private sector currently cannot. They need to use their status, they need to use their market networks, their local expertise to create investable pipelines and investment track records, and ultimately functioning markets so that the private capital can follow. So in summary, the financial market key actors need to move simultaneously. Mainstreaming responsible, sustainable, and impact investment practices amongst institutional investors so that you can be able to achieve the scale necessary to meet Africa's social and environmental challenges. Yeah, thank you, Moshegwa.
Thank you, Atieno. I think you spoke about such important trends here that we all so interested to learn about, actually, specifically about players in the ecosystem and in those financial markets. And I have a question for you, Mandy. Many people still interchange the idea of ESG and impact investing. I think, unfortunately, it's still a relatively new concept to some people still, but we're very excited that it is growing. But in terms of interchanging the idea of ESG and impact, does this summit cater to both practitioners of ESG and impact? And what other stakeholders do we think are important to start bringing into the conversation, Mandy?
Thank you for the question, Moshegwa. Firstly, Ahmad, I would definitely agree with you. This July, all roads lead to Cape Town. And if you haven't been to Cape Town yet, this is a good excuse to get there. So as part of Impact Investing South Africa, we would be very happy to host you here in South Africa later this year. Taking your question on, Moshegwa, I think there has been quite a lot of confusion regarding the terminology, which we've seen when you look at academic papers as well as practitioner reports. It has created some confusion, which has hampered the progress of impact investing, if I can say, be so bold as to say that. And I think there's three kind of definitions we need to look at. The first one is, what is ESG integration? And basically that's the integration of environmental, social, and governance considerations into organizations, whether it's through their operations or their investment decisions or their portfolio management. And this aims to identify and manage risks and opportunities related to ESG. But now when investors look at this is kind of a positive screening activity, which shifts the portfolios towards companies that have higher ESG scores when compared to their peers. And this is really great in managing the long-term risk. When we look at impact investing, on the other hand, I think this is an investment strategy that, most of you on the call will know, that looks to invest in opportunities that create a positive environmental or social impact, as well as generating a financial return. Often I've seen that practitioners stay away from referring to impact investing by that term. And the reason being is because they feel that it creates the impression that there's a trade-off between impacts and financial returns. So this summit, I would say, if you're an ESG practitioner or even an aspiring impact investing practitioner, I would say it's great to be there, because what it's going to do, it's going to allow us to understand and unpack the ecosystem and see where we play. And I think it's a natural progression from that ESG space into the impact space. So I'd like to welcome everybody who is participating in that ecosystem to join us in Cape Town. Thank you so
much. Thank you so much, Mandy. And I think you provided such incredible definitions of the two concepts, but that the summit is open to everyone under the sustainable finance umbrella, and anyone who's even looking to get into the sustainable finance umbrella. I have a question for you, Omar, based on something that you touched on a little bit earlier about Africa and the perceptions of Africa. One of the objectives of the summit are to show Africa as an impact destination and an investment destination. What are some misconceptions about investing in Africa? And can one actually say that Africa is actually an ideal investment destination?
Thank you very much, Mchagwa. Just before I get into this, I wanted to add also to what Mandy was saying, because I think she said very, very great points about ESG and about impact. But also, adding on to impact, it's not just about the trade-off that Mandy was touching on, but when we look at impact, there's a point that we put regarding the intentionality, and IMM itself builds on the idea of the process itself of engaging governance, transparency, strategy, and management all in a coherent state that could really show, when you set proper indicators, that you can get to measure them and see the returns and the impact on them. Whereas with ESG, it got a little bit tricky over the last years about how the indicators are set up and how you're getting to measure them. So maybe this just gives a little bit of a trade-off when you look at IMM, why sometimes it can be pushing the scales a little bit. So bouncing back to the question that you were asking about misconceptions. Yes, Africa has a lot of misconceptions that everyone sees. It's about grants, it's about funds with no returns, it's about mainly looking for impact with no actual viable financial growth or returns that would be getting back. And these are issues that really needs to change, because the narrative has been changing in Africa for quite some time, and you can see the ideas itself, they're shifting. Amma was talking about innovation earlier, and spot on, innovation is starting to grow very, very strongly in Africa. I witnessed see this during COP27, which was in Egypt. We had a competition. It was a climate tech run, and we hosted different startups and enterprises from all over the world. And it was very noticeable that in Africa, there are a lot of very interesting ideas. Some were from South Africa, some were from Egypt, some were from other parts of the region. We got to interact with different ideas that were really quite brilliant. And you're starting to see that it's not just about poverty. Yes, poverty is a very important issue, but it's not just about poverty. It's not just about agriculture. You're starting to see renewable energy across in different sections. You're starting to see technology that is being brought in in different areas. You're talking about water usages and recycling and waste that is being used also in different alternatives. So this space is starting to grow, innovation and technology is starting to grow, and really the misconception needs to change because the narrative has been changing. And I think the summit is going to really show how this has been, there's been a lot of growth in this section in quite some time. Thank you, Mchai.
Thank you so much, Omar. I think you touched on incredible points there, but particularly about renewable energy, technology, and innovation happening in Africa. In South Africa, particularly, the just transition is a very topical discussion right now. And I have a question for you regarding the just transition in Ghana. Is it as important of a challenge to move towards, renewable energies, or are there other more topical issues being considered? And how can the summit best engage different African challenges whilst keeping the conversation applicable to the different contexts?
Thank you, Moshika. That's a great question. In Ghana, we have one of the highest electrification rates on the continent. And so the conversation here is around how do we transition to cheaper, because we also have cost of living crisis. How do we transition to cheaper and more efficient energy? That's what people are interested in. They are also interested in building climate resilient businesses because they are interested in resilient jobs and sustainable jobs. Jobs, especially jobs for young people, is the #1 social consideration, and ensuring that there's a transition in which jobs are increased, maintained, there's reskilling, And all these considerations are a big part of the conversation. Ghana is chairing the V20, the Vulnerable 20, which is a consortium of countries that are at the worst risk of suffering from the effects of climate change, and has created a climate prosperity plan along with many other countries. And these are the key themes in that plan. Financing for SMEs that to mainstream climate smart action and to have climate smart businesses become the norm versus sort of a unique kind of business is also a big theme. We want to see impact not as a niche, but as the new way of doing business in Ghana and across Africa. And so when we talk about a just transition, some of these themes come because we're not net emitters we're not contributing a lot to the global pool, but we're suffering a lot. And so it's about resilience, it's about transitioning in a way that sustains jobs, it's about transitioning in a way that's innovative and transforms our SMEs landscape.
Oh, thank you so much, Amma. I think it's really incredible for me, particularly to hear about, the different challenges across the continent, but particularly what's being prioritized. And one of the things that you spoke about being prioritized is jobs for youth. And I have a question for you, Mandy. So the youth across Africa is a critical part of our continent, as we do have the largest youth population globally as Africa. So what are you looking forward to from the youth in the impact investing space, particularly from an innovation lens?
So I think the youth of Africa have faced many challenges, but I think when you're in the position of continuously facing challenges, that's when innovation happens. And I think participation of the youth will give us a different angle. It will give us a fresh angle. And I think this is where rejuvenation of the continent is going to happen. So we're looking for quite robust conversation from the youth across Africa, Moshekwa. So yes.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Mandy. I think the youth is definitely one of the most important groups on the continent. And I think it's so exciting to see the different things that are coming out from small businesses, social enterprises, and investors as well. So Justina, with that in mind, I have a question for you that many people consider impact investing to be naturally inclusive because it is different to traditional investing where there's some biases that are now excluded when it comes to impact investing. But some people have taken that a step further about being inclusive in their portfolios and have, started looking at this concept called gender lens investing. Do you consider this to be a particularly important investment strategy in Africa? And what other aspects should we be looking at for inclusivity in Africa?
Thank you so much. So I think it's really important that gender lens is being considered now, because from where I sit and from our parts of the world, most especially Ghana, research has shown that most SMEs are women-owned, and a lot of these small upcoming businesses are women-owned. And research has also shown that men are able to secure more funding than women. So we realized that there was a need, or there is a need, to drive funding towards these SMEs that are women-owned. If we get a lot of female businesses or female-funded businesses being funded, it would help with the overall growth of the economy. Also, we noticed that a lot of these women don't even know how to access funds. They don't know where to go to. So with the gender lens focus, it helps these women to know that there is funding available for them. There is funding that they can access. And as I said earlier, one of the deals that were closed was won by a female-funded business, which was really good for us from Ghana. And we think that it's a good space to look at. Another area that we can look at also is that we could also look at the youth, as we have already been saying. In Ghana at the moment, we have a lot of businesses that have been started by the youth, a lot of tech businesses, fintechs, climate, renewable energy businesses. And because we have a large number of youth in our economies, the more funding goes to the youth, the more we are going to see a rippling effect in our economies across Africa. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I think you're absolutely spot on with that. And I have a question for you then, Atieno. How can we use the summit to build these partnerships globally, specifically from the lens of the GSG?
Thank you, Moshegwa. So this is all about partnership. we are able to host this event because of the great partnerships and networks that we have been building over the years, and because of the great work and connection between the national advisory boards existing in the 4 countries in Africa, as well as the long list of countries, some of which were named already, where we are working to establish task forces or national advisory boards in the future. So what we are looking at doing, the reason why we are hosting this conference is because we are looking at mobilizing and allocating capital at scale. And so among different investor types across the spectrum of capital, will definitely require partnership to be able to do this across several levels. So we are targeting to establish what we can call co-creation partnerships and alliances, whereby investors and impact players, other institutions such as the MDBs, the DFIs, but also others such as foundations, philanthropists, and others within the ecosystem can come together to jointly contribute to or work towards the design and the sponsorship and the establishment of, for example, investment structures or vehicles with the objective of catalyzing more capital towards impact on our continent. Of course, there are other innovative partnerships as well within the market, the impact investing market, including, for example, public-private partnerships, among others. This would be within both within countries as well as regions. And of course, there'll also be lots of potential partners who will be looking for opportunities on the continent. So it's going to be a great opportunity for all these individuals, organizations to come together. And then also multiple external and internal investor barriers, of course, exist, some of which we have already talked about. Some of them are misconceptions about our continent, but all of them have maybe to date limited the flow of this potentially transformational capital. So many of these barriers can be overcome, of course, with existing tools and instruments, which should often need to be used in combination. So we need to have concerted and coordinated action through partnerships and with other actors to employ these existing tools, and also to be able to think of new ways of creating pathways to be able to do this, right? And so strong global partnerships will be very important for us because we are looking to amplify and make known the achievements of the work that is being done by the national advisory boards within their respective countries and in our region, both in our impact investing community and even wider. And then also looking to endorse our work and the role we have as national representatives within the impact investing markets. And then finally, we're also looking to see how we can break the bubbles of the community and to be able to mainstream our mission and the work that we are doing. Thanks, Moshegwa.
Thank you so much, Atieno. I think you spoke about so much value that could come from partnerships and collaboration, specifically across the continent and globally as well. So I think that's so exciting for us to see. And so my last question is connected to yours, and it's directed to Amma, just about, as someone who wants to partner with, with the summit or any of the NABs and be involved in the summit from either a partnership perspective or a fundraising perspective, what would be the value proposition for that, Amma?
So the value proposition for a partner is multifaceted. They are the things that I talked about, the fact that this is empowering on-the-ground actors to curate conversations that lead to action in a very unique way. So you get the opportunity to add that to the impact that you're doing in the world. It's an opportunity to be able to co-create these sessions with us and bring your experience and insights and impact objectives to blend with ours to create a really good cocktail of events. There's also the exposure. We're talking about countries across Africa. We're talking about impact investing boards that are engaging with governments across Africa, regional institutions. So the exposure that you get deep into the African network and African ecosystem is going to be really amazing. We're also looking at the impact that you'll find because of that action focus on deal rooms, etc. And it's just a fun group to work with. I've enjoyed these past few months so much. And so if you want to spend your sponsorship and partnership money in a way that's relaxing and fun, come join this party, and we'll have a very lovely ride to Cape Town later this year.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, panelists. I'm going to just open up the Q&A for the questions that we have. The first one here is by Jared Adima. He says, Omar has talked of tracking impact as key in impact investment. Curious if the summit is primarily focused on linking businesses to investors, or if it will also include aspects around how to enable businesses set, monitor, and evaluate impact in a way that's relevant, not only to them, but also to the investors. Omar, you did speak about IMM. Do you want to respond to that?
I think one of the things that the summit is also going to bring is discuss IMM and differentiations between not really getting into ESG and impact, but the understanding more behind impact, the rationale, the process itself, and about impact measurement and management and how to go about it. So this is something that we can expect to find in the summit for sure.
Okay, and thank you, Omar. I hope that answers your question, Jared. We have a lovely comment from Frank, who says, Africa is the sandbox for global impact. Any serious global impact player has to be in Africa. Our diverse and previously perceived problems are now exciting impact opportunities where players can test new products, new markets, and new services that would be globally scalable. You're absolutely right, Frank, and I think it speaks to what we spoke about is Africa an actual impact destination and an investment destination? And you're absolutely right, I think it is. We have another question here from Jumani, who asks, is there anything specific being launched at the July event beyond the deal room? I'm going to ask Amma to respond to that.
Yes, we are launching the Intellidex will be doing its inaugural awards during the deal room. So that's one of the key things. I know, I don't want to take the thunder away from Frank, from AVP but I know that there are some exciting news coming out from that really trailblazing network that will be announced during the conference also, and there will be surprises. So that's even another reason for you to sign up to come learn more. And there may be some new African NABs that are joining the Global Steering Group for Impact Investing. For those of you who are new to this, National Advisory Boards for Impact Investing are cross-sector organizations that bring together people from government, private sector, market builders, demand, to identify the gaps in the impact investing ecosystem in the country and to fill them through advocacy, research, creating vehicles, etc. So we will be announcing some new NABs in South Africa.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Thank you for that. I think it sounds so exciting. And our final question is from Tiamo, and I'll take this one. She asks, as a youth eager to branch into impact investing, is the impact investing course offered by the Bertha Centre and UCT sufficient to capacitate us with roles in the sector? Absolutely, Tiamo. I think that's a great course, actually. There's a range of different courses across the continent in impact investing and innovative finance that would absolutely capacitate you for roles in the sector. And I think the sector is also so broad that there's room for everyone to join in some form in impact. So there's nothing particular that you need to study or anything, but I think the summit is such a great place to learn from practitioners in that space and also understand where you can identify further learning.
Chegwa, can I just add something?
Yes.
There's also a course on Coursera. It's by Duke. It's specifically on the SDG impact standards and about impact measurement and management. I can post the link here in the chat for anyone who's interested. It's a great read. It's not very sophisticated and gives you really a good level of understanding on impact and impact measurement and management.
Thank you so much, Omar. Thank you for sharing that. If anyone's interested in that course is shared here in the chat. We will also be sending an email after this to everyone who joined, just a wrap up of everything we spoke about, as well as the link to the Africa Impact Summit, so you can find out more about it and buy your tickets. And if you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to the Bertha Centre, who can redirect your questions to any of the panelists, or reach out to the panelists themselves through LinkedIn or other platforms like that. So thank you so much, panelists, for joining us. I hope it was an insightful conversation for everyone. And I hope that we'll all be seeing you in July. And I hope that you all enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mochegwa.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you,
everybody. Thank you,
Oma,
Moshegwa.
Nandi.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks everyone.
Everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.